Just recently, over the last few years, I have dedicated a lot of, well, some of the mission of the foundation to honor my mother and father. Some of you may know my story with my dad. You know, he's Leo Lewis Jr., I'm the third. But Dad was a product of St. Paul Marshall High School, so he grew up in St. Paul. Was a student athlete at Lincoln University, which is the closest historically black school from St. Paul in Jefferson City, Missouri. Became a three-time All-American football player, and was recently, after 50 years out of college, was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. Yeah, and as the story goes, he ended up, like Bud Grant, playing in Canada and was a teammate of Bud Grant in Canada. Then Bud became the head coach of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers before he came to the Vikings. So ironically, I would be also coached by Bud. But certainly Dad was an athletic administrator, a football coach, a basketball coach, a golf coach, and passed away in 2013. But certainly, so part of that has been that I've honored him through the foundation. And we will honor our recipient tonight. My mother, Doris, was a physical educator. She was one of the first black teachers in Columbia, Missouri public schools way back in the 60s, and helped integrate this public school system. Certainly supported my dad. Met my dad at Lincoln, was a homecoming queen, and he was a star running back, the old story goes. And certainly was certainly a supporter of mine in my career. So her honor has been such that we have recognized women in the Twin Cities areas who have demonstrated leadership and support of young people, particularly young people of color in the Twin Cities. And Beulah Verdell, although she cannot make it today, unfortunately, she fell ill, has been someone who has been unrecognized for a long period of time. Certainly has been at North High School as a track and field coach for over 30 years. And believe it or not, has been a football coach for over 15 years. And she coaches our state championship football team and in special teams. So Beulah, although she could not make it today, we have recognized her. You can read some of her bio as well on our website. And she will get the Doris M. H. Lewis Memorial Practitioner Award. So we'll give it to her. Let's give her a round of applause. So I'm really happy that my dad's recipient is here. You know, certainly Scott and I have known each other for a long time, and I found out he has other people that he's known even longer, who have been chums of him for a long time. I think, you know, Scott is another person who has worked diligently, has been in a number of roles, but now is not only the head football coach at St. Paul Central, but also the head basketball coach at St. Paul Central. And he's been doing that for some time. That's a very difficult role to have in those two prominent sports. There was a student athlete at St. Cloud State and also matriculated from St. Paul Central, and has, along with Stacy Robinson, who is another colleague of mine who passed away and now has a field named after him in St. Paul, has been one of the two people that I kind of grew up with as athletes here in St. Paul. And Scott and I have done a lot of things. We've helped mentor kids in his high school. I brought some Viking players over to mentor his kids several years. We've done what we call an academic coaching program through the NFL at St. Paul Central, which North is going to resurrect this coming year. And certainly he has been someone who is constantly trying to get his kids to understand what it's like, what it's going to be like after they graduate. So I want Scott to come up for a second. We're going to chat a little bit, Scott, okay? And we want to know a little bit more about you. And we'll give the Leo E. Lewis Jr. Practitioner Memorial Award to Scott Howell. Okay.
Take the whole thing.
A little technology glitch, but that's okay. So, Scott, Minneapolis North and St. Paul Central have been in the tug for a while. Not this year.
Central pictures up there, I noticed.
Although they should. We've been on several ball fields, with your kids and certainly our staff in St. Paul. And by the way, a lot of our programming is in St. Paul, not Minneapolis, by the way. So, and Jimmy Lee Field, which is right across the street from St. Paul Central on Lexington Avenue, has been one of the places that we've participated and also been really focused on. So tell me a little bit about this whole Central thing. I mean, when did you get started?
It's really kind of crazy. When I went to college, I never thought I'd ever want to come back and be a coach or anything like that. I know I wanted to work with kids. I wanted to go in human relations and all that stuff, but I never thought I'd really want to come back and coach. And then I hooked up with Floyd Smaller, who everybody really knows, who brought me on. And when I came home from college and I started coaching there, and then I started getting into it, and the rewards that the kids can get. And it's not about just football. And I learned that early on when I said I wanted to go into human relations. It's more about, life skills. And, so Floyd brought me on and then was able to give me a job as an assistant. And I never thought I'd take over for him. And I ended up taking over for him. And that was 16 years ago. We're starting our 17th year. I'll never forget basketball. There was some situations with our basketball coach the day the season started, and my principal, Mary McBee, who's still there, came in and said, "Scott, I need you to go in there and clean that program up academically." And so I went in there and did that, and I've been there 16 years as well, starting my 17th year as football and head basketball coach at St. Paul Central High School.
Okay. Well, we certainly really appreciate you, Scott. And that might be a place where you'll end your career, right? Because I don't think if you leave Central, they're gonna be back in the way they were before you got there.
Don't nobody want me. Again, I think the greatest attribute that we will always say, football and basketball wise, in our 16 years, we've sent over 89 players the opportunity to play college ball at the next level, academically and athletically, and I think that says a lot.
Good. Well, it's certainly my honor to be able to recognize you, and I think in my dad's words, man, way to go, man.
I love to talk, if anybody knows. But
and he can sing, that's right.
We found some things out here that people didn't know, but we don't want to do that today. But as Leo stated, me and him have been working together a long time. When I first started out, Leo was one of the first guys as far as his program to really reach out. And I think the best thing that he ever did for us as far as inner city kids, he said, "Scott, don't worry about it. Your kids don't have to pay a dime. You just come and take part and be a part of what we're trying to do." And that meant a lot to us, and I'll always remember that.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Scott. I appreciate you coming out here. We really appreciate you. So keep going.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Well, again, for both Beulah and Scott, a well-deserved honor. I'm so happy that our foundation is able to recognize both of them because they don't get a lot of accolades for the jobs that they do. And for any of you who have been at the high school level as a teacher or staff person, this is an everyday job and it goes into the evening. Certainly as an athletic director and coach, you're just more than just a coach and an administrator. You're kind of a surrogate to a program that you're trying to always keep hope alive in. So we really thank Scott for being here, and we want him to understand how much we feel about he and his programs.